For more than 46 years, Voyager 2 has been a lone traveler, gliding past giant planets, slipping beyond the last breath of our sun's influence, and disappearing into the unlit ocean of interstellar space. But now, something has stirred in that darkness. NASA's latest data shows a pulse, precise, deliberate, echoing through the void. And alongside it, movement. An object, vast and unknown, closing the unimaginable distance. If it's real, this changes everything we thought we knew about the universe, and about ourselves. Out beyond the reach of sunlight, where heat fades into nothing and shadows have no end, Voyager 2 drifts. The space past the heliopause is a place so empty that even light seems reluctant to travel there. Out here, there is no sound, no air, no comfort, only the endless cold, pressing in on all sides. The spacecraft, barely the size of a small car, floats in this infinite ocean, carrying with it the faint heartbeat of humanity. Its gold-plated record spins silently, a message in a bottle thrown into a cosmic tide we barely understand. Voyager 2 began this journey in August of 1977, riding a column of fire into the blue sky, unaware that it was about to become the most well-traveled emissary in history. Over the decades, it swept past the giant planets, Jupiter with its swirling red storm, Saturn, crowned with icy rings, Uranus, a cold blue marble tilted on its side, and Neptune, deep and mysterious, its winds faster than a rifle bullet. Each encounter sent back postcards of wonder, revealing worlds humanity had only imagined. And then, with its tour complete, it kept going, straight toward the edge of the sun's domain. Even now, more than 12 billion miles away, Voyager 2 still speaks to us. Its voice is a faint radio whisper, taking over 18 hours to reach Earth. The Deep Space Network, massive dishes spread across the globe, leans in to listen, catching the fragile signal before it disappears into the background hiss of the cosmos. Every byte of data it sends is a treasure, a tiny glimpse into a realm we've never touched. But communication is a fragile thing. In recent years, the spacecraft has gone silent more than once, brief outages caused by software commands sent across a gulf so vast that a round-trip reply takes nearly 2 days. Each time, engineers have held their breath, waiting for the craft to answer back. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it takes longer. And in those gaps, you can almost feel the loneliness of its mission, the sense that it's sailing into waters no one has charted, where no rescue will ever come. Until one day, a transmission returned carrying something no one expected. It began as a blip, so faint the onboard systems almost discarded it as background interference. Voyager 2 sensors had been scanning the void beyond its path, sweeping for cosmic rays, particle densities, and faint electromagnetic signatures. Most of the time, the results were uneventful, the quiet hum of a universe too far from any source of activity. But this was different. The anomaly first appeared as a subtle distortion in the magnetometer readings. At first glance, it looked like the sort of fluctuation caused by stray solar particles or deep space radiation bursts. Yet the numbers didn't behave the way random noise does. There was rhythm. There was order. Digging into the data, mission specialists realized something unsettling. This was no drifting rock or aimless cloud of particles. The instruments were tracking a moving object. It wasn't on a stable orbit. It wasn't tumbling through space like an asteroid. Its velocity was wrong, too steady to be debris, too inconsistent to be following a purely gravitational path. It seemed to correct itself, like a ship adjusting its course. And then came the second anomaly, the pulse. Every 47 seconds, without fail, Voyager 2 registered an energy spike. Not strong enough to harm its systems, but sharp enough to stand out against the cosmic background. Perfectly timed. Identical in shape. The kind of repetition nature almost never produces on its own. Dr. Elaine Marcus, one of the senior engineers monitoring the transmission logs, remembers the moment vividly. "I stared at the waveform for a good 10 minutes, she later said. It wasn't random cosmic noise. It was structured. You could see the symmetry, the pattern. Someone, was creating it. Deep space is supposed to be silent, indifferent. The expectation is that, beyond the planets, you find only the slow drifting of rock and dust, the faint afterglow of distant stars. Yet here, billions of miles from the nearest world, Voyager 2 had stumbled upon precision, signals so clean they could have been cut by a machine. Teams ran simulation after simulation, searching for natural explanations. Maybe it was a pulsar's beam grazing the craft. Maybe a strange alignment of cosmic rays. But pulsars don't move toward you, and cosmic rays don't course correct. This thing, whatever it was, seemed to be following. And so, they watched the numbers change. Each data packet revealed the same steady pulse, the same erratic but purposeful velocity adjustments. The object was not holding position, it was closing the gap, moving closer to the path Voyager 2 had traveled for nearly half a century. But the real shock was where the signal was coming from, and how it was moving closer. NASA's first public comment was careful, almost rehearsed. They referred to the anomaly as a possible instrument irregularity or environmental interference, noting that deep space transmissions were notoriously fragile. A loose connection, an aging circuit, or an unexpected burst of cosmic radiation, these were the safe explanations, the kind that wouldn't spark headlines or panic. But behind closed doors, the language was different. Engineers knew the craft's sensors. They knew what noise looked like. And this wasn't noise. Astrophysicists brought in to review the signal spoke with a mixture of fascination and unease. The 47-second pulse wasn't just consistent, it was, as one put it, mathematically beautiful. The intervals were precise down to fractions of a millisecond, and the waveforms were nearly identical, cycle after cycle. "Nature loves chaos," said Dr. Youssef Grant, a radio astronomy specialist. "You don't get this kind of precision out here without some kind of clock, a very advanced clock." The military community, however, saw it differently. A pulse that consistent, moving in tandem with an object on an intercept path, had all the hallmarks of engineered technology. To them, the possibilities narrowed to two, and neither was comforting: an unknown natural phenomenon with highly unusual properties, or an active, functioning piece of equipment from a source that was not Earth. "If it's ours," one retired Air Force signals analyst remarked off record, "we should know about it. And if it's not ours, well, that's the bigger problem." It was a leak from within the European Space Agency that deepened the mystery. An anonymous technician, frustrated by the slow drip of official updates, passed along fragments of internal logs. These weren't just about the pulse, they showed data on minute trajectory changes made by the object, each one nudging it closer to Voyager 2's path. The adjustments were deliberate, almost surgical, as if it was matching speed and position with a clear objective. The most unsettling detail came from a private notebook entry found in the leaked files, written by a researcher who had been analyzing the object's course for weeks. Scrawled in the margin, without context or explanation, were two words that would change the tone of every meeting that followed: intentionally guided. The first theory to surface was the most cautious. Perhaps the object was a natural fragment from a distant star system, drifting through interstellar space for millions of years. Its magnetic anomalies could, in rare conditions, produce rhythmic pulses as it tumbled and interacted with surrounding cosmic fields. But this explanation faltered under scrutiny. Natural objects tend to rotate irregularly, producing uneven patterns. This pulse was perfect, too perfect for something adrift in the void. The second theory was far bolder: an engineered probe, built by a civilization not of Earth, now homing in on Voyager 2. Some scientists speculated it could have been awakened or attracted by the probe's constant stream of transmissions, a beacon in the darkness. In this version, Voyager 2 wasn't just a silent messenger, it was a flare, announcing humanity's presence to anyone or anything capable of hearing. The third theory was stranger still, belonging to the realm of unknown physics. Space is vast and largely uncharted beyond our solar system, and there may be phenomena that don't fit our current understanding. Fields, waves, or energy structures that behave in ways we've never recorded. If that was the case, the object could be a manifestation of forces we've yet to name, perhaps moving in ways that break the rules we thought were unbreakable. The stakes, in each scenario, were enormous. If it was alien contact, we were on the brink of the most profound moment in human history. If it was detection by an unknown force, we might be under observation without any way to respond or hide. And if it was evidence of visitors from beyond our galaxy, then we were facing the reality that we are not only not alone, but part of a far larger, older network of travelers. Public reaction was immediate and divided. Enthusiasts flooded forums with excitement, speculating about first contact and the possibility of peaceful exchange. Skeptics dismissed it as hype or misinterpretation, while others spun it into fear, warning that our message in a bottle may have reached the wrong hands or claws. And then, just as the debates reached their peak, the signal's pattern suddenly changed, as if it knew we were listening. At first, the change in the signal seemed subtle, just a shift in rhythm, the way a drummer might add an extra beat to a steady cadence. But when engineers overlaid the new pattern on Voyager 2's outgoing telemetry beacons, the realization hit hard: it wasn't random. The object was copying the probe's own transmissions, mirroring them back like an echo across billions of miles. This was no passive reflection. The return pulses carried tiny variations, as if the source was altering the signal deliberately, changing the pitch, modulating the tone, embedding something inside. It was as though the object was saying, "I hear you." Meanwhile, the Deep Space Network's high-gain antennas locked onto the target, feeding every scrap of data into the analysis stream. The radar returns painted a shape, small compared to a planet, but smooth, symmetrical, and highly reflective. Natural space debris is usually jagged, scarred by eons of collisions. This was polished. It looked more like the skin of a machine than the surface of a rock. The energy readings only deepened the unease. Buried in the object's electromagnetic profile was a telltale signature: steady, contained, and far too controlled to be natural. To the engineers, it was unmistakable. The power output matched that of a small, contained fusion reactor. Humanity had dreamed of building such perfect, efficient engines. This thing already had one. Suddenly, the theories about drifting space fragments seemed almost laughable. The object's course corrections, the pulse, the mirrored signals, all pointed toward one conclusion. This was technology. Functioning, active, and approaching. But it was the final layer of data that sent a chill through the control room. Hidden within the mirrored reply, tucked between bursts of telemetry, was a shape in the waveform, subtle but undeniable. When analysts enhanced and slowed the signal, it resolved into something disturbingly familiar: the contours of a human voice pattern. Not words, not language, but the spectral fingerprint of speech. And hidden within that mirrored reply was an unmistakable pattern resembling a human voice waveform. If the object was intelligent, the implications were staggering. Humanity had been noticed. For nearly half a century, Voyager 2 had sailed unchallenged through the darkness, a silent witness to the vastness of space. Now, for the first time, something out there had not only seen us, but had chosen to answer. Inside military briefings, urgency replaced curiosity. Strategic advisors weighed the options. Should we acknowledge the signal and risk revealing more about ourselves, or power down Voyager 2 entirely, cutting off all transmissions? Some argued that any form of reply could be an invitation we weren't ready to extend. Others warned that silence might be interpreted as hostility, or worse, weakness. Governments, however, maintained a public calm that was almost eerie. There were no official press releases, no televised addresses. Instead, journalists chasing the story found only cryptic no-comment responses, while leaked memos hinted at meetings between space agencies and defense committees. A handful of statements from scientific institutions were carefully worded, speaking of ongoing analysis and unexpected anomalies, without ever naming the object. Behind this veil of secrecy, the debates grew more philosophical. If this was a technological artifact, what was its purpose? Curiosity seemed the most optimistic possibility, a probe drawn to another probe, like two ships passing in the night. A warning was the darker alternative, a deliberate act meant to test, to measure, to remind us we were being watched. And then there was the most daring interpretation, that it was an invitation. A call to step further into the unknown, to follow where it might lead. The stakes were no longer confined to science. They were political, cultural, existential. This was no longer just about what Voyager 2 might find, but about what kind of species we were when the universe finally looked back. Because if this signal is a message, then someone out there might be expecting an answer. This isn't just a story about a spacecraft in the cold emptiness of space. It's the first moment in history when humanity may have triggered a response from beyond. For decades, Voyager 2 has carried our voice into the dark, a fragile thread stretching back to Earth. Now, something has tugged on that thread. What if we're not alone? What if they've been here before, quietly observing, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves? And perhaps the most unsettling question: what if this is only the beginning of a conversation we can't control? We've always imagined that first contact would be grand, announced with trumpets and televised speeches. But maybe it starts like this: a pulse in the dark, a mirrored signal, a voice that isn't ours. If the object reaches Voyager 2, humanity may get its first message from the stars. The question is, are we ready to listen? Share your theories below. Is this an invitation, a warning, or something we can't yet imagine? Stay alert, because whatever this is, it may rewrite not just our understanding of the universe, but of ourselves.